Senator Sampson, here we are again.
Here we are again. It seems like we've never left, Madam President, but alas, I think I left on May 3rd, and I'm back on May 3rd. It sometimes happens like that this time of year. I want to start by associating my remarks with the chairman of the Government Administration and Elections Committee. Senator Flexer has done amazing work on the subject of Juneteenth. And I want to just state for the record that I share her, I guess, desire to have a solemn remembrance of this date in our history. And I'm very pleased that Juneteenth has become a federal holiday. And I know that our governor last year declared Juneteenth a holiday in the state of Connecticut. And I'm trying to recall whether or not we actually did manage to get Juneteenth celebrated as part of our days, weeks, and months bill that we do each year. I first became aware of Juneteenth probably when I was in high school, when I first got involved in politics, and really my formative years when I decided to become engaged as a citizen and learn our history as a country. And I became fascinated with the Civil War, with Abraham Lincoln, and with Ulysses S. Grant. And I remember Juneteenth being, sadly, more or less a side note at the time. But over the last maybe 20 or 30 years, I think that this date and this marker in history has become more prominent and more understood as a very significant day in American history, and certainly something that needs to be remembered. This is all leading up to the bill that's before us, and I can't tell you how difficult it is, Madam President, to tell you that I'm not going to support the bill before us, but it has absolutely nothing to do with Juneteenth or any other holiday. I'm in favor of Juneteenth. I'm in favor of having the state-recognized holidays that we do now. The issue really is that this bill not just recognizes Juneteenth as a day in history for the state of Connecticut, it also ends up becoming a state holiday, in effect declaring a paid day off for the state workforce. And there is a breakdown by the Office of Fiscal Analysis that tells us that this could result in a cost of between $1.8 and $2.3 million per year, as well as a less significant cost to municipalities across the state. It would not matter to me what holiday we were talking about. In fact, I was very instrumental in helping to pass Patriots' Day in the state of Connecticut a couple of years ago as part of our days, weeks, and months issue. And people asked me at the time about, should Patriots' Day be a state holiday? And I said, absolutely not. I think that we have too many holidays that are paid already. And I just don't think that's fair to the taxpayers of the state of Connecticut to create another one. I have a couple of questions, Madam President, just because I want to understand how this is going to work. My understanding from the OLR bill analysis is that by establishing Juneteenth as a legal state holiday, this becomes a full-time, permanent state employee day off, paid time off for legal holidays, which is under CGS 5-254. And I get all that, but what I'm curious about is about our public employee collective bargaining situation, and whether or not this bill, if it becomes law, would supersede those contracts, or would state employees that are subject to collective bargaining still have to negotiate to get the day off? Through you, Madam President.
Thank you. Senator Flexer.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, in our efforts to get to this point here today to have the conversation about creating a state holiday of Juneteenth, Independence Day, I'll be honest, it's been a little bit complicated, and so I want to answer the good senator's question as clearly as I can. It's my understanding that the contracts for state employees recognize all of the state holidays that are in state statute, and so if this were to be added to our state statutes in creating this state holiday, that all of those contracts would also cover giving this as a day off for all state employees, with the exception of those who work in certain arenas where they must still continue to do their work. And that also relates to the cost in the fiscal note. Through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you, Madam President, and I appreciate that answer. Reading through the fiscal note, it's very hard to tell exactly what's being counted and what's not. There are a couple of references to state employees, and I guess they used Columbus Day in 2018, which was the last time we had a full year, really not subject to COVID or things like that, to kind of measure what the impact of a paid state holiday is on our finances. And I don't know that it's particularly clear, because I think it really does depend on the individual bargaining unit and what their contract says. But I do recognize that the fiscal note is probably quite accurate based on that. I think at some point we ought to have in this state a very, very important and much needed conversation about supersedence and whether or not the actions of the state legislature really should impact state employee contracts. To me, it's odd that you can have state employee contracts that supersede state law. We were discussing bills just yesterday that would impact private contracts between the citizens we represent, and certainly we don't let their contracts supersede the laws that we make in this state Senate. So with that, Madam President, I want to reiterate my real significant trouble with what's going on before me, which is this desire to support this act, because I do in fact support establishing Juneteenth, Independence Day, as a legal holiday, and have done so in our committee discussions in the past. My problem really, as I mentioned, is that this does generate a significant cost to the taxpayers of the state of Connecticut based on the paid time off that is accrued by state employees as a result. And I just can't support it. It wouldn't matter what the holiday is. And it's unfortunate that it's this one. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson. Will you mark for